Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I would like to welcome each of you to tonight's meeting, February the 22nd, 2022. At this time, if you'll please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. We will pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome to tonight's meeting, to the school board meeting of the Madison County School Board. The school board meeting is officially called to order. The school board meeting is an advertised meeting held in the public, not a public meeting. We have a set advertised agenda that will be followed. Anyone wishing to address the school board may do so during the public input section of the meeting. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. The sign-in sheet to speak during public input is on the table to the left as you enter the boardroom. Please sign in if you wish to speak. Our school board minutes this evening are being recorded by Ms. Bishop, our confidential secretary and secretary to the superintendent. Board members present are Ms. Williamson, Ms. Carroll, Ms. Williamson,
That's okay.
Ms. Gibson, Mr. Carroll, Ms. Bell, myself, Bart Alford, and Superintendent Joseph. Our attorney is present, Mr. Reeves. At this time, we will look at the agenda. I'm going to amend the agenda at this time. I am pulling item 4.14. That is being pulled. 7th and 8th grade configuration is being pulled. I'm pulling under the amendments 2.1 Memorandum of Understanding with the Department of Corrections will now be added to 4.15 Memorandum of Understanding with the Department of Corrections. So I'm pulling items 4.14 and adding a 4.15 Memorandum of Understanding with the Department of Corrections. And I'm adding a 2.2 public comment. And there's also a public comment 4.11 for if you would like to speak concerning the school configuration. At that time, you may speak at 4.11 or at 2.2, whichever you would like. But 4.11 is there for school configuration. So in clarification, I'm pulling 2.1, and it's now becoming 4.15, Memorandum of Understanding with the Department of Corrections. I'm adding 2.2, which is public comment, and I'm pulling 4.14, the 7th and 8th grade configuration. Are there any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, we will proceed. The first person to speak, Mimi Rapogel, under subject is school configuration. Do you wish to speak now or at the 4.11? 4.11, please. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we will proceed. Okay, under the consent items, consent agenda items, you have 3.1, the minutes from February the 7th, 2022. Also, the workshop at Pinetta Elementary School on 2/10/22 and the workshop on 2/15/2022. We also have under 3.2 under the consent items the school improvement plan for Joanne Bridges Academy. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent items.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Williamson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Is there any discussion? Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, show a hand for approval. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. Okay, 4.1, items of individual consideration. 4.1, personnel changes. Mr. Killingsworth.
Good evening. This evening, you have two names before you for basically retirement. One of them will be, the first one actually will be at the end of the school year. However, she has gone ahead and given us that so that we can go ahead and start searching for a replacement, because that's not a typical position, so to speak. The other one, that one has already taken place. And the other spot we have is a substitute bus monitor that I'm asking your approval.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the personnel changes?
I made the motion to approve the personnel changes.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Bell. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, show of hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. 4.2, school volunteers, Mr. Killingsworth.
Next one I have there is we have three names that we're asking that y'all approve for the volunteer list, if you would, please.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the school volunteers?
I made the motion to approve the school volunteers.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, show a hand, please, of the school volunteers. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. 4.3, memorandum of understanding with MCEA concerning COVID leave. Mr. Killingsworth.
Yes, sir. This is the arrangement that we all discussed and agreed upon. This is basically 5 days, the short version, up to 5 days for COVID leave from January till the conclusion of this school year. Okay? That's and it is for the employee themselves. It's not for your, unfortunately, children or husband, wife, whatever the case may be. It is the employee themselves, which it outlines it in 1 through 5 there. So we're asking the union and we've all agreed on this and asking your blessing on it, final blessing.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding?
I'll make the motion to approve the memorandum.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Ms. Williamson. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Williamson, seconded by Ms. Bell. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, show a hand for approval. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval of the memorandum of understanding with MCEA concerning the COVID leave.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Killingsworth.
Thank you.
The next item, 4.4, categorical funds. Ms. Raynack, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think
Good evening.
in front of you, you should have, if you don't have, I've printed it out. Do you need copies of these? You asked last meeting for me to go over the categoricals and to talk about how they have gone up or down over the last year. So if you look at that first block on your top left corner, you're going to see what the categoricals were at the final calculation last year of 2021, what the expenses were at the final AFR, the annual financial report, and what the difference is over and underfunded. So, for example, Safe Schools had $371,511 that actually came to us for Safe Schools. The expenses were $544,835. So it was a deficit of $173,324. So if you follow that along and you add all those up, you can see that there's a difference in expenses and revenues of over $2.5 million just based on the final calculation from 2021 and what we actually spent. Now, one of those categories is reading allocation stayed pretty stable, mental health stayed pretty stable, and science, but the rest of them all are showing a deficit. Now,
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Does the public have access to this information?
they don't have it in their hands, but
It's
if,
on board docs.
pardon me?
Okay,
It's
they-
on board
okay,
docs?
because
Okay.
I was going to say, if they don't, I'd like them to be made aware of all of these figures.
Okay.
But if they
That's-
have access, then I'll settle for that.
It's on board docs.
It's-
Okay.
It's
I
on
just want to
board
make
docs.
sure, because I
Okay.
want them to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then if you follow the top right corner, you're going to see what is in the third calculation projection. FTE comes to us and it's recalculated 4 times a year. So they have a conference report, they say, this is what we think it's going to be. The second calculation comes out, the third calculation comes out after survey 2, then there's going to be a fourth calculation. So this is the third calculation. This is what they're projecting that we're going to get in each of the categoricals. And the last column is the difference between what we ended up with finally in 2021 versus what the third calculation is. So you can see that there's another difference of about $98,000 in what we have projected right now to come to us and what we actually got from last year. Now, if you drop down to the bottom right corner, you're going to be looking at what I call areas to watch. One of them that is strikingly stands out is family empowerment. Family empowerment is like the vouchers that go to the children that go either to private school, homeschool, virtual education. And now they've taken all of those scholarships and wrapped them all up into what they call family empowerment. And there's two levels of family empowerment. One is for economic opportunities, and one is for what we used to call students with disabilities, the McKay, that part of it. Last year, this is money that comes into the district. It shows up in our FTE as money we get, and then it turns around and it goes back out to the students that actually qualify for to the parents that actually qualify for this money. Last year, it was $78,000. This year's third calculation, they're calculating it will be $418,000. A difference of $340,000 that's going to pass through, come in, and go right back out. Next year, they're projecting that that's going to be $562,000. So that's money that makes it look like our FTE has got a lot more money in it than it does, because it comes right back out. They subtract it out at the end of the year. Another thing that you might want to watch are the FTE for career education. Last year, we had 101 FTE for career education. This year, they're only projecting that we have 86.58 FTE. Anytime FTE goes down, you're seeing a loss of finances. Our dual enrollment last year, FTE that was extra add-on, was 31.38 FTE. This year, it's only projected to be 22.52. So in addition to our categoricals falling, you're seeing that the add-on FTE is falling as well. And the empowerment, which is a pass-through, is increasing. We have funding caps on ESOL, which is English Speakers of Other Languages, and ESE, which is Exceptional Student Education. We have funding caps on them. We reported last year 12 FTE for ESOL. We only got funded for 6.85 because of the cap. So we're generating the money, but then because of our past experience with reporting, the state has capped that money. So you will see that in ESOL. You will see it in ESE. Last year, we reported 23.69 FTE. We were only funded on 14.25. Same with the ESC 255s. We reported 5.46, and we got capped at, we actually got funded for 2.27.
So,
There was no
so
cap.
explain again, why are we being capped?
I think that they're doing this in, I have to get this clarified, but I think they do this statewide, where they go to the legislature in like May or June, and they project what those levels are going to be, so they can estimate how much FTE to put in every district's basket, if you will. And so when they do that, they don't go back to the legislature afterwards and ask if that changes, but then our history goes into the next year. So if we're showing more now, but we were capped, next year it should show that we have a little bit more before we get capped.
Right.
Now, are we doing the projections, or you said the state was
No,
doing
the
it?
state's doing those at the conference report.
They do,
Yeah. Now, there are things that they ask districts for input, but a lot of things that they forecast, they're getting them from a historical longitudinal point of view from our FTE reports. So they're looking back 2 and 3 years. There's certain things that they have to tell the legislature, we're not going to ask you for any more money for this except this that we know is going to happen. That's what creates those caps.
thank you.
If you look at our net state funding from 2021, we had $13.1 million. This year, our third calculation has us at $12.6 million, about a $558,000 drop. State funding is falling from projections and this year to last year, and projections for this year, $544,000. Our unweighted FTE last year was 2367.44. In the third calculation, which is Survey 2 numbers, it appears to be higher by about 21 students. However, we've looked at the preliminary data from Survey 3, and those 23 have fallen back off. 21 students have fallen, or FTE have fallen back off. So in our fourth calculation, we expect that that's going to come right back down.
And that includes the family empowerment scholarships too, right?
Yes, that FTE includes those students that are on family empowerment. So really, you're looking at maybe 60, what was there, 55 or 60 kids that generated the money? 55 children generated the money this year. So off the top of that 22367, you'd have to take the 53 students off the top, because that's money that passes in and passes out.
So you're saying the family empowerment is the McKay Scholarship and the economic opportunity?
Yeah, it's in two parts now.
Okay.
But altogether, they're calling it Family Empowerment. They call it Family Empowerment EO for Economic Opportunity, and Family Empowerment UA for something unique abilities. Unique abilities. So that would be your students with disabilities. But they're also projecting for what used to be called the McKay and other disabilities, they're projecting that we're going to lose $26,871 this year versus $21,000 last year in the unique abilities. Questions?
Just the question I had back from the beginning is, we need to look at, I know Ms. Joseph is looking in transportation in a way that we could save some with that, with our contracts we have with the charter schools, and what we can do to save money, and looking at the pre-K, which that would include VPK, not pre-K ESC.
Right.
It was 66,000 short, 700. But in looking at what they're in the state legislature of what they generate, or what we're being reimbursed for, you have to legally have 2 adults in there. So by the time you do that, you almost know that you're going to be at a loss from the get-go before you even start. Even if you were to pay one person as a teacher, the other as a parapro, it still doesn't equal, if you have a class of 20, of what we're being reimbursed for.
Correct.
And where, I'm afraid we may have like got in some issues if we have classes that are not at 20 and have them at lower classes, and then it would just compound the issue.
That's true.
I don't know what the class sizes were in that, but
Is it-
that would explain that.
Is it 18? It's 18.
But even at 18, that's even less. I think the reimbursement is a little over 2,000
About 2,500 of
per
students.
student. And once you do with benefits, and I don't know what the CDA is paid, I assume it's the CDA that teaches the class, probably at least 28 with benefits. But again, that was my concern. And then some explanation like on the SAI, I thought we received that money and didn't spend over what we were, do you understand what I'm saying? I thought that.
SAI, Supplemental Academic Instruction, that's dollars that come to us that are targeted for things like after-school, summer school, tutoring, additional dollars like that. What's being done is there's a set-aside for that, and we are spending more than what we're receiving on that. So everything that went into the SAI expense report is reporting more than what we received in the allocation. We can do that, but we have to take those dollars from either general fund balance, or wherever, but we can spend more than that.
Right. You
So
just have to
that's
have-
just showing you that we did last year, we spent more than what we received.
The same would apply for the ESC allocation and class size reduction. And
Right, exactly. And to address the pre-K is paid for children, and Ms. Joseph, correct me if I'm wrong, for children to attend about 3.5 hours a day.
Right. We pay
And in
for the
this
other
district,
part.
we keep them all day, so our expenses are probably not ever going to close that gap.
Right. In centers, the parent would pick up the second part of the day. But,
Exactly.
since they're with us the whole day, we're picking up the final part.
And that's the thing about transportation, too. You're probably never going to close the gap between the cost of transportation and what they actually give you. You're never going to close that gap. You can find ways to get that gap down, but you're not going to close the gap. And that's across all of North
Yeah.
Florida,
Oh, yeah.
especially
Yeah.
rural districts.
That's an issue.
There are a lot of miles to get those children to school.
I don't know that there's a district in the state that transportation is being funded for transportation completely. And especially with gas and diesel going up, it's only going,
It's only going to get worse.
yeah, it's only going to increase. Concerning like driver's ed, was that just,
There was a balance of money in the driver's ed, and so we combined the money with what we had, so we could buy 2 vehicles for driver's ed last year.
right?
So that's why that's over.
Does anyone have any questions?
I did some checking on the small rural schools, for instance, Greenville, and I was told that we received $59,000 in November for it being a small rural school.
Is that?
Are you familiar with it?
It sounds like one of those title projects, but let me check into
Okay.
that for you. Yeah,
I mean, it
but
probably
even-
went into the general fund. I'm not sure what they do with it or
If
anything.
it's a title project, it's targeted for certain activities.
Okay,
Okay.
if you would check on
I will
that.
check on that,
I
yes.
did a little checking, but I don't know that much about it. Okay, thank you.
I believe that's what, the small rural is part of,
Yes.
part of a federal grant that comes to us.
Someone mentioned to me, like, for instance, Steenhatchee, but now that's very rural, and it's way out there, away from, and I don't know if, I was wondering if our schools would qualify for this. So someone said, oh, yeah, you got something for, in November. I said, oh, good.
If they qualify, it's going to be an entitlement, and the department is going to notify us that we qualify.
Okay.
And then we have the opportunity to apply.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we qualify for
For,
what they have.
you know what I'm,
Yeah, because I think it's based upon the distance, and at one of the finance conferences I went to, that was brought up, and
It's
there-
the distance from an MSA, from a
Right.
metropolitan service
and-
area.
And I don't think, it might not have been that we qualify for that, but maybe it was something else, you know.
Yeah, because their funding is a little bit different based upon, I mean, it's around an hour ride from the town to that area.
Could it have been the sparsity?
No, it's a specific,
Well, we don't qualify for that special pot of money that Steve Hatchie gets. We do not qualify.
No,
for that.
I don't think it was that. I think this is something else, that, they said, oh, you got 59,000 for that. So that's good. I says, well.
We'll
But
take
not
it.
what Steen, now that's something different, what they got, the Steen, because they got about 50, maybe much more than 59.
okay, we appreciate this information.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Rose, and-
Thank you.
Thank you. Please, any questions you have, my door is open.
Okay, thank you.
You've been very
Thank
helpful.
you. Okay, is there a motion, well, I don't know that we have to approve that, do we?
You got your,
No.
Ms. Rainier, you up again.
For the monthly financials, 4.5, the monthly financial report.
Okay. So, you have in front of you or on your iPads, you have the financial report. Let's start with the Fund 100, which is Fund 1,000 for us and Skyward. And if you look down that, and I'm going to try and be brief but comprehensive here. You look down that, you can see that we've received about 61% of our money from general revenue. But you also see that there are some big pots of money that we've received like 80% already. So when we get more than what we're due at this point in time, it kind of artificially inflates where we are. So we've gotten 60.1 total, but like taxes that we get $2.9 million, we've gotten about 80% of that money. If you look at the expenses, you can see for January or for the comprehensive expenses, we have spent $10.4 million, but we have $5.235 million encumbered. Encumbered means that we have either issued a contract or we have gotten we've got salaries encumbered, or we have given a PO to a vendor. So if you add that the 10.4 million and the 5.235, we've actually spent around just over $15 million there. If you follow the sheet down, you can see that we are still projecting that we are going to have less revenues than expenses this year. So we're going to still be digging in the fund balance for at least about $390,000 unless our expenses our revenues come up. Now, we've been fortunate with the ESSER projects, helping us with some instruction and helping us, especially with capital outlay expenses. But when the ESSER money goes away, you're going to see a deeper cut in the general fund. The next fund is Fund 200. That's our debt service, our bonds, and everything else like that. We're staying pretty stable. We've gotten in about $50,000 in revenues, and we've spent about $33,000. Got a little bit of excess there, but that excess is going to a pot of money. We have a bond that we owe for $1.19 million that we took out a couple of years ago to help pay for some schools. And so what we have to do is we have to build up money to pay for that bond when it comes due, and it's due in 2027, I believe, or 26 or 27. The next fund is Fund 3.
Excuse me, I couldn't hear that. Someone's talking in the audience.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear, someone was talking in the audience.
Okay. I was talking about the capital outlay bond that we took out a couple of years ago. We still owe about $1.19 million. what we do is we are trying to accumulate enough money so that when that comes due in 2026 or 27, I'm not sure which, that we have the money to pay the bond off.
Thank you.
Okay, the next fund is Fund 300, which is our capital outlay. Here's where ESSER has been helping us out quite a bit, because ESSER's been paying for a lot, and the CARES money, the stimulus money's been paying for a lot of air conditioners and a lot of maintenance that we would have had to dip deeply into this project for. So we've taken in almost 74% of the money at $1 million, but we've only spent about $200,000 and $500,000 encumbered. So we're giving this pot of money a little bit of relief because of the ESSER, but remember, the ESSER goes away. And when I'm saying ESSER, I'm kind of accumulating CARES, ESSER, ARP, CRISA, and all of those pots of stimulus dollars together. If you look at Fund 410, that's your food service fund. You took in $622,000, it's about 50%. You've spent $698, about 53%, but you've got some money coming in transit back and forth there, so you're pretty flat in that area. Food service is holding its own. In Fund 4200, now those are the federal grants that are entitlements, Title I, Title II, Title IV, Title IX, those kinds of things that come to us usually on an annual basis. Okay, those funds, these funds are never meant to have any excess, because you get the money in and you spend it, and what you don't spend you have to return. So we've spent about 30% of that money in those funds at $1 million, and we took in about $1 million and we've spent about $1.2 million. The difference is the money in transit back and forth, because we can't claim the money from the department under flags. We can't pull the money down until we spend it. The next fund is 4410. Now this begins the whole group of ESSER grants. 4410 is the big pot of CARES money, the first ESSER grant we got. And we had $214,000 that came in that pot, and we've spent $214,000. So that pot of money is pretty much gone. 4420, those were the small pieces of the first stimulus ESSER dollars. We had 44,000 come in this year, and we've spent 45. Again, the difference is the money in transit from us drawing it down. You can't bring it down till you spend it. 4430, now this is when ESSER 2 came up. And that money is called the Coronavirus Relief Fund, so that it's sometimes referred to as CRISA. So the CRISA dollars for the ESSER 2, we've taken in $2.245 million, and we've spent $2.538. Now this is money you're not going to see again after the stimulus is gone. So this is the money that's been helping us on a lot of big things like air conditioning units, and a lot of extra instruction that we've been putting into the schools. Again, the difference is money in transit back and forth. 440, the next project, that's the little pieces of ESSER 2, of CRISA. We've taken in $275,000 approximately, and we have not shown any expenses on that yet. So that's some of the pre-K, the dual enrollment, the civics. Most of those projects we're still in the application process. We have not received, we've received some awards, but we haven't gotten to the point of implementing those.
So they tell you, you apply to spend it on this, and they tell you whether you can or not? Is that how that is?
We have to have a plan of how we're going to spend the money. The stimulus money is much more open than the entitlement money,
Right.
because there's like 15 or 18 areas that you can choose from. But whatever you choose, you have to have a plan, and it has to be sent to the department. The department has to approve it.
Prove it.
Then the 4450, that is the newest big chunk of what they call the American Rescue Plan. We don't have that money yet. It's projected to be around close to 10, but about 3 of that passes through to the charter schools. So we're looking at around $6 million that we should be getting in this money. We've sent that application in. That application has to go to the legislators. Now, one thing I will say, we got an email today from Mr. Corcoran and Ms. Pridgeon that said, we are not the only ones. Every district got this memo. But it said, please be careful, because what they're forwarding to the legislature is a whole bunch of brand-new jobs and a whole bunch of recurring payments. And this money's going to run out. So just be careful you don't fall off the funding cliff when the money runs out. And then the last is going to be all the little tiny projects that are going to fall out from the American Rescue Plan. And we have had no notice on, we've had one notice. We had the IDEA ARP that we've applied for, and it's in the approval process right now. But other than that, we don't have any more of those, but we expect more of them are coming. Right now in the ESSER projects, we've probably got about 20 ESSER projects right now that are active, that we're trying to manage and implement and make sure we spend them on the right things.
And maintain documentation.
Yes, absolutely. We have been told multiple times by the department, but also by federal attorneys, be careful. You must tie the ESSER money to the COVID virus. You must be able to tie it. If you don't, and if you don't have the documentation, you will end up being written up and you will have to pay it back. So we are desperately trying to make sure that we spend it on the right things and collect the right documentation.
Do we have a plan for the Fund 4450 American Rescue?
There is a plan that we submitted. Robin, can you talk more about some of the things that are in that? You helped build the plan. I want to say it has a lot of extra personnel, like coaches, to help with MTSS. And Robin, I'm going to let you chat about that. I see it when it comes to me after it's been awarded.
That's the fund where we have put the extra money to pay for the COVID days that you just approved. That's also the fund where we've agreed to pay the $1,000 to all staff that did not get the $1,000 from the governor. We have money in there. We have to meet, it has to meet certain criteria. And so a lot of that is catching students up who have fallen behind. And so a chunk of that has gone into trying to provide extra assistance to students who've fallen behind. That's how we're paying for after-school programs. And because it can run all the way until September 2024, we've spread it out over a 2-year period so that we don't spend it all in 1 year, which the state, definitely harped on. Don't spend all this in 1 year. You need to make this last for 2 years. We're giving you until September 2024 to spend it. And so that will help pay for, some summer school. That will help. We're using some of it on credit recovery programs. We're using some of it to pay for some curriculum things. This year we were able to buy like a math intervention program that we've not been able to afford before, that kind of stuff. And so the majority of it is focused on catching students up.
It's now, I've made a note of all this, and you said it's going to expire on September 2024.
That's correct.
Now, how many people will you be hiring extra? I don't see extra people for this. But
No,
so it's
we haven't, in this particular, in the ARP, we did not put extra people. We are keeping on the people that we have right now. Last year I came and I asked you for a STEM coach and an instructional coach. We're going to continue to pay them, but then once this money's gone, then those positions go away. So we're trying to do as much as we can during, this 3-year period to get, all the training that we can get, so that we won't need it in 2 years. We will have trained folks, we will have, gotten them up to speed on all the new standards, because, with the new standards coming in, we have to train all the staff on the new standards. Even this summer, we're going to be training teachers still on the new ELA standards while starting on the new math standards. And so we have put in this one in art to be able to purchase the math curriculum K-12, because when we don't have extra funds, we have to buy pieces at a time. So this is going to allow us to get, all the new materials, up front for the new math series. And so it's those kinds of things. I thought we presented our plan for art.
We did earlier, but we're
I
just refreshing it.
Okay. If you want, I'll get you the whole list of things that we're doing out of ARP so that you can just see every specific thing.
And we are replacing all the air conditioning units and heating units in all the schools other than the high school because they're new.
Right. We're like Tim took our needs, our building facilities needs, and we're trying to go ahead and pay for that all right here, because we know in 2 years when we don't have it, we're not going to have money to fix air conditioners or to fix things that are broken. And so we're trying to spend as much on it right now as we can, so that in 2 years, we won't need to replace toilets. We won't need to fix air conditioners.
We were having units the central school is 20 years old. We were
Right.
having units go down at least once or twice per month. And now we're just replacing all of them.
Yeah, and again, those all expenses that would come out of the general fund, so
Yes.
it is saving. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
And if you notice, everything she talked about is related to COVID. It is either related to what happened or preventing what may happen if the virus continues. One thing I did do, and a couple of board members have asked me questions about, what I tried to do is pull together a summary of expenses from last year for each school versus this year, where they're at this year,
That's the whole
the
thing
money
down.
that they generated.
That's the whole thing. It's different things. It's passed all the way down.
Yeah, it's a stack of 5 schools in there. I'm hoping I have enough there.
Pass it all the way down.
But if you, yeah, there should be 5 separate schools in every stack. Okay. If you look at that, in the center of the page, and I'm looking at the one that says Pinetta Elementary in the center of the page. If you look at that, the matrix underneath it explains where their FTE is coming from that they generated. They generated 1.22 FTE last year. The first page of this is 2021. If you look at the top left corner, you're going to see a line that says TOT. That's the total expenses that Pinetta had last year to operate the school. And if you look at the line underneath it, it says per month. That's how much it's costing us per month overall for the school. Now, this is taking all the expenses and just dividing it by 12, just averaging it out. These are final expenses that we have off the annual financial report. So if you look at now a third of the way through on the right-hand side, if you look at that number that says 650,633, that's the number that should have been generated for the school to use to pay for things out of what came from the FTE. If you look at the brown-colored boxes underneath, it shows that the total expenses that they had out of that pot of money was $846,000, so it shows that school actually went into the general fund money to the tune of almost $200,000 extra. If you look at each of the schools, you're going to see the same pattern. When you look at Lee Elementary, based on their final expenses, they overspent what they generated by $264,000. If you look at the high school, they overspent to the tune of about $675,000. And if you look at Greenville, they overspent to the tune of about $95,000. Those costs that are overspent are dollars that come out of your fund balance and come out of your general fund. If you look at the second page on each of them, any of them, you're going to see another matrix. That's the dollars that they're generating right now for this year, this school year. And right underneath the 2021 date, you're going to see what they've spent to date as of like the end of January. And you're going to see off to the far right, you're going to see what they should be keeping their budget at. This is just to give you an idea of some of the places where general fund is being tapped that we don't get the FTE to support. And I'd be happy to answer any of those questions if you want. I didn't want to make that an agenda item. I just wanted to add it to my financial report. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them now or later.
So altogether, how much this average up to between all of the schools? Except for the Madison County High School.
I'm going through here, 2, 3.
That's coming out of general funds.
I'm trying to do this in my head here. Who's got it? You got it? Okay. I got 675, 95, 265, and 195. The high school.
What's Central?
Central actually kept their budget almost dead even.
Don't say that.
But remember, Central was understaffed. So, but kudos to Central. We like Central. We like this. We like the break-even point.
We can survive like that, though.
Yeah. And that sums up my financial report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rayneck. Is there a motion to approve the monthly financial report?
I move to approve the monthly financial report.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Gibson, seconded by Ms. Bell. Any discussion? If there is no discussion, all those in favor, show a hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval.
Okay.
Is it possible that you could upload that information that you handed out, and you could upload the board docs or give those documents to the audience who would like it?
Sure.
No, that wasn't uploaded, that was some extra information.
That was some
This
extra
will upload tomorrow.
Okay, it's
Am I on?
5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval.
Thank you.
I'm up
Thank
next
you, Ms.
again.
Wright.
You up
Okay.
again, man.
I'm gonna build a chair here. Okay, the next is the teacher salary increase, and I sent you the documents that will be uploaded to the Department of Education. It just shows a breakout of how many teachers would be paid at which amount. And, but this document I'm giving you is what will actually become the salary schedule based on that. We have tentatively agreed to this. Okay. And after impasse, it would be final, but we need it board approved so that we can turn it into the department, so they know we're making progress on the teacher money. Now, do you need to explain anything about the salary schedule?
Oh, here's another.
So just a little bit more information on the salary schedule. For people under step 13, those folks are on the performance pay. People past step 13 would be the grandfather people. And so really, the only people that this affects are new people who come, it's what their salary starts at, and then the people who are on the grandfather scale. Once someone starts with us and they're on performance pay, then they are on a salary schedule of their own. Because it would depend on, did they get highly effective, needs improvement. So everybody's kind of on their own scale. But this column on the left shows you where new people start. And then for people after step 13 and below, it's what the step cost, or how much their salary would go up. We put on there the amount that their step would be, plus we voted to give a $500 supplement to people on the grandfather scale.
Now,
So if
when
a
you-
person if their salary goes up like $374, they're actually going to receive $874, but $500 will be in a supplement, $374 will be in their salary.
It's a longevity supplement.
Now, 1 through 13 is performance pay. That's how they get paid, either effective, highly effective, and all that. But
Yeah.
are they on, well, they're on,
They're not on steps anymore.
they're not on steps,
This is where they would have started,
right?
and then from there, they're on their own salary schedule. Because they may have gotten highly effective one year and
Right.
effective the next, but this is where they would have, they will start if new people come to our district.
Like if someone comes, let's say with 10 years' experience, they'll be put on,
Number 10,
because I know in the past, sometimes step 3 meant you had,
right,
in other words, okay, so it's on 10 then, okay.
yeah.
And what you're looking at is a combination of what they would have gotten in performance pay and what they got in the teacher salary increase too. Remember, we got $400,000 in teacher salary increase this year, but $363,000 had to go to help pay for the recurring costs that we went up last year, where we gave big raises of $5,000. There was only about $30,000 new money to actually help increase teacher salaries this year.
So 1 through 13 is performance pay, like effective and highly effective.
Effective is $631. Highly effective gets $851. And most of the grandfathered will get a combination of the supplement and the pay increase to around $870.
And the grandfathers are the step 22?
No, from step 13.
Oh, step 13 down. Okay,
They could be at any stage along there.
okay.
And then once they leave step 22, then they go into a longevity.
Okay.
And that's,
After 2009, we had to move away from the grandfather scale. We could no longer put anybody else on it.
Okay.
And so the actual date that law went into effect was August of 2011. But teachers had to already be on a professional contract in order to be on that grandfather scale. So if I had been hired in 2009, I would not have been on that professional contract yet to been on the grandfather scale. So really, it's anybody who we hire after August 2009, they have to be on performance pay.
Now, when you say grandfather, I mean, are they still getting rewarded for being an effective teacher? Oh,
No,
they're
they
not.
get the automatic step.
Okay, they're going to get the audit, okay, all right, that's,
And right now, most people get hired on a yearly contract, is that correct?
Everybody, every instructional person that we hire has to be on performance pay.
Okay.
And that's for, it don't matter how many years they're here, right?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
right.
They could come with 25 years' experience, they still have to be on performance pay.
I got you.
That's all in statute.
Okay, are there any questions concerning that? Okay, is there a motion to improve the teacher's salary increase allocation for the 2021-2022 school year?
I move to approve it.
It's been properly moved by Mr. Carroll. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Williamson. Any discussion?
yes, I've got a question. On the second page, step 23, 6,100, now, is that a year, 6,166, or?
That's the longevity, the
Yep.
provisional longevity supplement that we've had. You'll see that the pay scale, the salary schedule stops
Yes.
at 22. And from 23 on, they get a longevity supplement, and that is per year.
Per-
But that really becomes their salary. Once I qualify for the 7,900, my salary cannot go any higher.
Okay.
So you get it for like 3 years after the 22nd year?
Well, you get that 7,900, but that's where it stops.
Is a stopping point.
That's added to the 50, well, now it's 52,300. It'll be added to that, and that's as high as my salary can go.
The ceiling would be the 59,832.
Right.
Any other questions, Ms. Gibson?
I don't think so.
No. Anyone else? Okay, it's been properly moved by Mr. Carroll, seconded by Ms. Williamson. All those in favor of the teacher salary increase allocation for the 2021-2022 school year, show of hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. Okay, 4.7, out-of-school district field trips on, get it pulled up here. The Madison County High School Band on May the 7th is going to Busch Gardens. It's 50 students and 4 chaperones. That will be paid by the band. On March the 8th, the high school high tech to TCC in Tallahassee, Florida. That's 20 students and 2 chaperones. Okay, there's been 2 added, or 1. The next one we have is Madison County High School will be playing Bradford High School. There's 20 students participating and 3 chaperones. The date of the trip is 2/22. Today. And the girls' basketball team will be, the date of departure is 2/23 through date of return 2/24 to Lakeland, Florida. There's 32 students and 5 chaperones. Was the boys to Lakeland also? It didn't say that.
The boys will, if they make it to state, they go to the
Like-
first round on March 2nd. If they win, then they go back on
Okay.
March 4th.
Okay, I was thinking that theirs maybe was too. Okay, and the other one is the Madison County High School senior class. The date of departure is April the 2nd at 12:30. Date of return, April the 3rd at 6 a.m. To Universal Studios. It's a class senior trip. There's 50-plus students with 6 chaperones. It's grad bash. They'll leave Saturday and return Sunday morning. So those are the student field trips. Is there a motion to approve the trips?
I made the motion to approve the out-of-district field trips.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Ms. Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion? It's been properly moved by Ms. Bell, seconded by Ms. Gibson. All those in favor of the out-of-district field trips, show of hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. Okay, 4.8, staff travel. Staff travel. We have the first trip, the High School High Tech Conference in Orlando, April the 27th through April the 29th. It's a mandatory conference to review the grant. Melissa Block will be attending, and the cost is $400. The next staff trip is Lee McNutt. Is attending the pre-K contact meeting in Orlando, March the 2nd through March the 3rd. The funding source is TATS, and she is the pre-K contact for the district. The next staff trip is the ACA 2022 Annual Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. This is a mandatory mental health professional conference training. There's 5 counselors going. The funding is a grant. It's April the 7th through April.
We're not going to the Atlanta one. We canceled that one. We're going to the Savannah one.
Okay, well, I think I read. So it's in Savannah?
Yes.
Okay, instead of Atlanta, it's Savannah. 3 people going? Okay. So the conference is being held in Savannah,
March 6th through March 9th.
March the 6th through March the 9th. And did the cost change?
Yes, I don't know what it is, but it's grant funded.
It's grant funded. And that is for 3 mental health, mandatory training for mental health counselors. And the last one is the Vision Transition Conference in Orlando, Florida. It's high school, high tech, and IDEA. The cost is $800. It will be attended by Marissa Block and Melissa Cherry. It's a transition conference to serve students with disabilities.
We got one more trip.
Okay.
Okay, if girls play Friday night, I will go down to Lakeland. And if our boys play March 4th, I'll go down to Lakeland again for the final. February 25th and March 4th.
Okay. Okay, those are the staff trips. Is there is there a motion to approve the staff trips?
I
Make
make
a
the motion to
motion to-
approve staff trips.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Ms. Williamson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bell. Any discussion?
So all these trips, they pretty much paid for by grants or something like that, huh?
They all were that I looked at, except Ms. Joseph, but all the others are. I mean, pre-K would be the counselors is grant funding. The other one is high school, high tech, and IDEA, and I'm sure that would be also within a grant. Are there any other questions? Okay, if there's none, it's been properly moved by Ms. Williamson and Ms. Bell. All those in favor, show of hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. Okay, Mr. Killingsworth, let's. Okay, out-of-field teachers.
Okay, the list you have before you looks to be kind of long, but I'll break it down a little bit for you. However, if you would, there's one in there that I'll need to strike, and I'll pull off of it tonight or in the morning. Julia Roderick, it shows in Greenville. Actually, we just strike through that one. I don't know how that one got there. That's my fault. She does have a spot up there at Central, and that is correct. However, the short version of this document is there are 16 people within the 9 school sites in our district. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying our public schools, our 3 charter schools, and also our DJJ facility that we have there. As far as how that goes, Pinetta has 1, and that is being served by a para. Waypoint has 2. Part of that is virtual and access points. The high school has 3. However, 2 of those 3 are basically dealing with credit recovery, where a teacher goes in and has some credit recovery that's kind of assigned, so that's how it pops in. Joanne Bridges has 1. Central has 7. However, on that, 2 of them are on temporary certification. It's just not in that particular area. And then there's 1 that is in certification. They're just not. So if you want to look at it, 3 that are done in temporary, 3 that are paras, and then we have 1 that's a sub. James Madison has 1 that is a sub, and the academy has 1 that is a para, that is filling the positions at all given sites. And that list shows alphabetically who the person is, what the school site they're at, what area they're in, and the particular class that they're out of field in.
Okay, thank you. Is there any comments or discussions on Dallas School, district?
I admire them. When you're an English teacher and you're teaching math,
Right.
they have all my, they're good.
Is there a motion to approve the out-of-field teachers?
I move to approve the out-of-field teachers.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Gibson. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of the out-of-field teachers, show of hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval of the out-of-field teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you. 4.10, MTSS informative presentation, Ms. Ritchie.
At the last meeting, when we were going over our previous iReady results, you guys had some questions for me that I couldn't answer completely, and so I asked Ms. Ritchie if she would share with us tonight about RTI and how we're trying to meet the needs of those students who are the 2 years behind or more. If you remember on the chart that I showed you, the graph, we looked at it by the district, how many students were 2 or more years behind, how many were just 1 year behind, and then how many were on level and above. So Ms. Ritchie's going to share with you just a little bit about how we're trying to meet the needs of those students who are 1 year behind or 2 or more years behind.
Good evening. So for the sake of having everybody understand, we use a lot of acronyms in education. So I wanted to kind of go through what is RTI with the group. And so I'm going to go through and kind of break down what it is and then kind of give you where we are district-wide. So what is RTI? It stands for Response to Intervention. It's a multi-tiered approach to early identification and support of students with learning and behavior needs. Okay, the goal of RTI is to restore students to the gen ed classroom. When schools and teachers implement and follow effective response to intervention strategies, a larger number of students meet grade level expectations at the Tier 1 level. And You can go on to the next one. In RTI, we talk a lot about tiers, and so I wanted you to know what each tier meant. Tier 1 is the primary level of prevention. That's all students. That's your use of curriculum, classroom management systems, anything you do on your day-to-day basis. Tier 2 is your secondary level of prevention. Statistically, about 15% of students are in the Tier 2 level. We deliver lessons in small group settings. We do that several times a week. And then Tier 3 is our most intense level of prevention. Once again, statistically, that's 5% of our students. When we deliver that instruction, it should be up to 3 in a group. It's tailored specifically to the need of the student, and it should be delivered 4 to 5 days a week. All right. What is an intervention? And the first thing that I have here is the actual definition of an intervention, and then secondarily, what does it mean to us? Interventions are practices or programs that have been peer-reviewed, documented empirical evidence of effectiveness. Evidence-based interventions use a continuum of integrated policies, strategies, activities, and services whose effectiveness have been proved or informed by research and evaluation. That's a lot of words just to say interventions are repetitive in the process, strategy, and presentation. You change the content to deliver the intervention. You can collect data, and you can chart the progress. They have been proven to be effective. It is not just good teaching. It is specifically prescribed to the student. Okay? Why would a student need an intervention? They might be failing, falling behind, significant behaviors, attendance, a suspected disability, suspected mental health needs. And then we have a district form to request an RTI meeting. So each RTI specialist at the school or guidance counselor at the school has this request for instruction through an RTI meeting. And the teachers record everything they've been doing in the classroom. So if they're already doing stuff, pulling the kid, doing extra things, they've had parent meetings, they record it all on here so it's already ready to go. Then the student intervention team meeting takes place. They bring together teachers, parents, school counselors, staff and specialists, ESE teachers, administration, anybody that is involved specifically with that student. During the meeting, the team makes a plan of what interventions would be beneficial for that student. They talk about who's going to deliver it, how much time, how often, how will it be assessed, and then they keep a data on an intervention calendar. Examples of interventions that we are using here in the district, we have academic interventions like RAVO, LLI, Read Naturally, our new one that we're excited about, Moving with Math, the iReady Toolbox, Heggerty. We also have a very thick binder of research-based strategies and interventions that are specifically based for student need. We also have behavior interventions that are prescribed through Insights to Behavior. We have a behavior therapist that is working in our district. We have a mental health therapist, many of those right now. We have attendance interventions like attendance contracts, education counseling, home visits by the truancy office, alternative education options if needed. And then we also check the fidelity of the intervention. Is the intervention taking place? Is it being effective? Is it being delivered as often as the team decided? Is it being followed through? This isn't a gotcha. This is is this intervention working? Because ultimately we're checking to see is the student responding to the intervention? And then we evaluate the actual intervention at our meetings. We determine if they're having a positive effect, if they're having a questionable effect or a poor effect. And based on those questions, what do we need to do to adjust that intervention to make sure it's more effective for the student? And then finally, these are the numbers based on about a week ago when we met with the schools. We've had a total of 625 RTI meetings in the district so far. 180 of those were attendance, 62 were behavior, and 383 were academic. Now, not saying that some of these weren't intertwined, because we all know that if you have an attendance issue, you probably have an academic issue. We took the primary reason for the meeting, and that's how we calculated the numbers. One thing I will say, and that's the last slide of the presentation, one thing I will say is this year, we have had a greater parent attendance than we've ever had before. And I don't know if that could be a positive result of all the options we put out there for COVID, because now we have parents that are attending through phone conference, they're attending through virtual meetings, and so they're able to take a break at work, make a phone call, do the meeting over the phone. The phone conference was always available, but nobody really used it, and so now we are actually having a lot of parents use that, so we're able to kind of start working on bridging the gap between things that we're doing at school and things that we're doing at home. So it is a work in progress. We're working towards it like every other county in the district, but I think we're making a lot of improvements in that process, and we're trying to get a district process so that everybody's doing the same thing. So
I've got a question. Okay, let's say a typical third grade. You would find tier 1, 2, and 3 within that class, right? Okay, who's going to be doing the interventions in the classroom?
Okay, so RTI is a general ed program.
Right.
So it is the teacher, the para helps if that is available.
If they've got one, right.
If they have one, we've been saying it forever, we are short-staffed.
Yeah.
We were fully implemented with the LLI last year because we had enough people to help make that happen. This year, only certain schools are hitting it across the board. I know Central School is trying in certain grade levels, but they're short-staffed, so the kids that might have had it available before, they don't at the moment. The teachers are trying their best, but before we had parents to come in and kind of help manage the class so that they can do that. Some of the teachers are being amazingly creative and making it happen, but we aren't able to flood the classes like we could in the past.
Well, I mean, the grouping has been going on for 50 or 100 years,
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing unusual. But I was just wondering how that was going, because if you have especially these tier 3, I call them level, but tier 3, then they need intense intervention. Now, would they be in a group, or would you pull them out individually, or how are they doing it there?
It depends on what the team decides. Some of
okay.
the programs are based on 1 to 3 kids. And so
Yeah.
now I will say that there are lots of people, like I said, being very creative. I know that assistant principals are going and joining in on intervention time. The ESC teachers, the ESC peers, everybody is kind of putting their hands in there to try to help to make it work for the kids.
Each school has an intervention time set aside from their ELA time. So the students get 90 minutes at least of ELA, but then they schedule an intervention time in addition to that.
Okay.
So, and yes, they're like at Central, I know that, Miss Yolanda goes into, I think it's 4th grade, and she has an intervention group herself. And, they're trying to use everybody they have available to provide these interventions. Now, on tier 3 reading interventions, the person must have the reading endorsement to provide those tier 3 interventions. It can't just be a para or, a teacher that doesn't have the reading endorsement. The state came out with the rule, and this was the first year it had to be implemented, where a teacher cannot provide interventions for tier 3 students if they don't have the reading endorsement.
That's tricky.
It's tough.
It
Yeah,
is.
That's,
It is. But, we are seeing, we're getting closer to just full-out implementation of, that intervention time. We did back off of LLI in some grades at Central, but they are still using other intervention programs.
I like the idea of a separate time, because then you really realize what's supposed to be happening now.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now, is that teacher going to have to still be grouping them during that time, during?
They still do centers during
Just the
their-
centers, just the centers.
They still do centers, but centers is not considered intervention.
No.
That's part of the instructional time.
Right.
And so they have to have at least 30 minutes a day or intervention time, if they're tier 2 or 3. And, but for LLI, that's a 45-minute intervention time. So it takes a little bit longer. At our outline schools, they tend to have the time to do that, whereas at Central, there are only certain grade levels that we're able to pull that off with the personnel, because the teacher alone can't do LLI and manage the other groups.
No,
And
that's,
so it takes another adult in the room to help supervise.
thank you. That's,
I have a question around to what extent or how long are students staying in the process before either they're referred for further testing or having success in the classroom? What is the average time frame?
So there's not really an average, that's not even by the state, like, it's really a case-by-case situation that we've tried. We require at least, not we, that is state mandate, you have to have at least 2 student intervention team meetings where you put interventions in place, you track their progress before you can do an eligibility meeting for testing.
We shouldn't have someone on it for years. No.
I mean, unless they're making progress.
But I mean, again,
Yeah.
either at some point.
Yes.
After a while, you would be tested either for, if you're not keeping up with your peers.
Yeah, and once again, we are tweaking this process, and we're really trying to dig in. We meet every other month we actually met this afternoon as a district team to try to make sure that everybody's on the same page. We've included little flags on in Skyward so we can start tracking the kids that are on it, and we've started putting the dates in there so we can see how long they've been on it. We have given out, step-by-step instructions of what it should look like, your RTI folder, all the stuff that's required in it and things like that. So we're working towards that, and we're going to get there eventually. But the problem is that there is not anything laid out anywhere by the state or anywhere. There's just recommendations. So
My
district-wide,
one
we said
concern
3
with
weeks.
this whole process is probably 10 years ago, maybe 15, all districts stopped screening students in kindergarten, speech and language. And that was a good point to determine where deficits were.
Now, we still do a speech screening in kindergarten.
And language?
I don't know, no, just speech.
And language was where you could pick up if they were IND or language impaired. And it concerns me that we have someone wind up in 3rd or 4th grade and just determine that they're IND.
Right.
And you've had all that wasted time. I mean, that's the question I was asking about. How long do they stay on the RTI? Because you could be RTIing
For a long
along
time.
and it's not will change their cognition.
Right. And it's really been a big change for teachers in learning how to document what can be the intervention documentation in terms of, the state has lined out for us, and you can speak to this better than I can, Melinda, but the state has lined out for us what they look for when we're audited for determining if the child should have been referred for testing. You want to go through that?
So, for example, you've been around education for a long time. Specific learning disability. We used to look at an IQ score. You find a gap, and that's no longer a thing. You have to have interventions. You have to have data in place, and all those interventions have to match whatever the disability is that you're looking for. And so that in itself has been a change in mindset across the board, that the eligibility for a learning disability is specifically based on the interventions that you do in the classroom. And you have to have, just like you're presenting to, and if you're an attorney presenting to a judge, all your evidence of why you feel like this kid has a disability. And so that in itself has been really hard because it does fall back on the teachers. And they're teaching class, and they're doing all this other stuff, and they have to have the data, and that is what we're working towards, and we're getting there. But it has been a change in mindset because there are only a couple of eligibilities now, even language. Once you start kindergarten, and that is why once you start kindergarten, you have to have RTI to back up language.
Right.
And so it's been a hard change, but we're getting there.
Back 26 years ago, in the good old days, we would screen everyone, and it was a nice way to have a red flag to go ahead and start intervention, and it would be on the radar for teachers that this could be some potential issues. And just as the years pass, we're seeing them more and more as they get older, somehow falling through the crack and winding up in third grade. And you suddenly discover this really, really low IQ that you question, how in the world did you get to the third grade with this IQ, and no one's noticed until now.
One of the things that we're trying to do to kind of keep from kids falling in the cracks is, as we have our RTI people at the school level that are going through that iReady data and going through grades and doing the early warning systems to make sure that if a kid wasn't referred by their teacher, that they go ahead and say, hey, here's the form, we need to refer this kid because they didn't end up at our
And the iReady is a great tool to be able to identify if they're below a certain percentile and 2 or more grade levels below. I mean, something's not right. Something's not right. Well, I appreciate you coming tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Hill,
Appreciate it.
Informing
Ms.
us
Hill?
on this.
Ms. Hill, can you send that presentation to my email?
Yes.
The slides, thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Ritchie and Ms. Hill. Okay, the next item is 4.11, public comment. Ms. Rapogel. We can wait.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. I do appreciate you giving me another opportunity to speak. I'm going to look at this from a different aspect. We look at the school configuration issue between 6th grade going to outlying schools or 6th grade staying at Central. Ms. Rainick, you've done a beautiful job of painting such a dismal picture with our numbers. It's just wonderful because as I thought about those numbers, I realized when I looked at the board docs and saw our 5-year survey that we've got $7 million to pay for Greenville Elementary. We have over $11 million to pay for another one of our outlying schools. We have $29 million to pay at Central, $18 million to pay at the high school, and over $2 million to pay at the Excel school for the changes that are expected with this great move. That is according to what was submitted to us, I presume, from Ms. Violet Brown. It was part of the Phase 1 discussions that considered reconfiguring 3 elementary schools, taking them to a grade configuration of K-6, which was about 64 total students. So when you roughly put the numbers together at a minimum, you're talking $70 million for 64 students if we make all the necessary or recommended changes to our school communities, to our school sites, just for 64 students. And I'm not saying every parent doesn't have the right to have their choice, but we also have to consider what's fiscally smart for our district, being good fiscal stewards. And I don't see how $1 million a student, when we're already having troubles, is worth that kind of money.
Mrs. Joseph, I'd
Thank
like you
you
to explain that. You and I talked about this earlier.
Barney, you want to explain or want me to explain?
Or
You
better.
can, Ms. Joseph.
Yes, I think the audience needs to get the sufficient knowledge.
Well, you see attached is a 5-year survey. It's called our fish report that we have to do every year, and that has been already approved. This is nothing that specifically relates to this. The move of 6th graders is not going to cost us 1 penny in reconfiguring the building. This is a wish list that the maintenance department put together. If they had the money, nobody's exchanging any money. If we had the money, you put together a wish list, these are some things you wish to have to the school. And if we ever come with a windfall of money, it has to be on the list before you can do the work. That's all this is.
Yeah,
But
but
it is not a penny being spent to reconfigure any school. And
Yeah.
this has been pre-approved already.
I'm sorry if that was misleading, but again, there's no expense in that by what this FISH report is saying. It's simply a wish list within, for each school within the district.
And thank you for that explanation. I knew it wasn't, it could have been taken that way, but it's good to have sufficient knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, each school has a space, classroom space, to accommodate the sixth graders. If the board chooses to move them out there, they're not gonna have to reconfigure any rooms. They're not doing any construction. The only thing we're doing, and we were gonna do with the kids moving out, they're updating the air conditioning system. And I think that was discussed with the CARES money.
Have we ordered those air conditioning units?
Yes, ma'am.
Paid for?
If we haven't paid for them, they've been encumbered. The fees have been encumbered. Some of them we do not have privy to, we do not have access to. We have not taken possession of the ones in Greenville. They finished the units out at Lee. They are almost finished with Pine. They're working at the Central School. I don't think they've finished those. Okay, but those are coming out of the CARES money. Okay, because part of the money has to be for COVID-related, maintaining the air quality, because we know this is non-reoccurring money, and you know how those units have been breaking down in Central. Okay, that's some money that we can replace those units now. So that's what that is. But part of it is getting materials in.
Right.
We have ordered these things March last year. And as soon as they come in, we can get them in, but we cannot make the manufacturer send them to us any quicker.
Do we have any guarantee with that company that if they were to go out of business today, that we would still get our units?
We don't have our money until we get the units. We don't pay for delivery services until they are delivered.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Joseph. Item 4.
He's not signed.
You sign in back there.
You may. It wasn't on this sheet, but you may. I'm sorry.
Donnell Davis. Okay, so what Mina was talking about is a little a little confusing, but what's your name?
Rose.
What Ms. Rose talked about is not confusing. And I think you have the documentation right there in front of you. I think she said one school is $200,000 coming out of general fund. Lee, and find out how much?
Greenville, 95.
No, I didn't have the paper, so that's why I'm asking her, and y'all have it. So if we already looking, she said something very important. If you know math, if you continue to be in the negative, how are you going to continue to function? Sometimes I think we have to put our pride aside, trying to accommodate everybody and what's good for the school board. Because evidently, the state going to take over Madison County school system, period. If we continue, the general bond, she said something about the bonds in 2024 that is stable right now, but it's a loan only right now. If you continue to go into deficit, right, you won't have money to pay for that, right?
Correct.
Correct. So
Take it out of the fund balance.
out of the fund balance, and the fund balance is negative too, right? Already this year.
No, it's not.
How much is in the fund balance?
We've got about 9% on
9%. But if we keep going down, how much you think, since you're here, would it cost for all the schools to migrate to Central? How much of savings you think?
I can't say.
But you think would it be a loss of savings for our general fund? There wouldn't be no negative, right? You know what I'm saying? If it all come together.
All the costs would have to be assessed. You would have to take into everything, the infrastructure and everything in order to make that statement.
Okay,
I'm
but
not ready to make that statement.
okay, but when they built it, I think it was for how many people you said last?
It's around 1,700.
1,700. And how many at Central right now?
It's around 950, but where the issue would be is is you cannot guarantee that everyone is at your outlying schools, including teachers and students, will agree to come in.
Well, but if you put them all together, you got more power to hire teachers because you have more money.
But what I'm saying is, there's no guarantee that those students would come in, and you still may could lose even more.
But but you're losing now because you just said we lost $200,000 in Lee right now. So are you losing there? Do you care about losing money? Are you going to continue to let it pull out the general fund?
Again, the board needs to sit down, and we need to look at how we can make it where this is more efficient. We got this tonight. This
Okay.
is the first time we've seen these numbers is tonight.
So next time when y'all get a next board meeting, can I be on the agenda? Can I have a copy of that to look at that too? Because I like to do my research because, like, you know, some stuff is misleading. And for what she reported today, it's got to be something got to click in our mind. Business 101.
Again, if we're looking at it, all together, we need to look at the high school of why it's where it's at. Because we can't do away with the high school.
Well, I'm just don't understand that. It's just not starting for this. I want to say it's just this been something been going on for a long time for us to continue to come to the same deficit. You can't. If I have a business right now, if I continue losing $50,000 every year, how I'm gonna stand? And 101 math, IRS, I do taxes. Every 3 years you losing money, they want to figure out why you still in operation. So if we continue losing money, why are we still operating Lee? Why are we still operating Greenville? Why are we still operating Pinellas? Even the high school. Somebody gonna come in and take over if we come and continue to be in this red. And then you don't have the money, like you said, the 1.1, that's the part, that negative $1.1 million. She's saying that in 5 years we have to be paid back? That's a bond. It's secured for what we're doing. And if you're saying that, but you said it's not an add-on, right, Ms. Joseph? There's no add-on, this is already projected? The wish list, how about that? That's a good call.
Oh, let's call that a fish report.
Yes,
okay?
ma'am. But I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, because that money already been accessed, what you saying, that 1.1, right?
No, the fish report is totally.
No, I'm talking about the 1.1, the bond money. The bond money been already established for the schools, right?
That money was already
Yeah.
taken out, kind of like the loan.
To add on to the schools.
No.
To fix the high school.
For renovation.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
For renovation.
But y'all saying now if we add these schools, that's what I'm saying. If we add these schools already projected, you don't have to do nothing. Because CARE Act, and my thing, and I did CARE Act too as well. It's very tight, it's very discreet what you can use this money for. So air conditioners, I understand we need all this stuff, but I just think we should come together. And the thing, the biggest part about it is we are so divided. And that's the thing. That's the thing that baffles me the most. We're so divided. And seeing that we're negative in all these different areas, these arenas, because, you know, it's my disadvantage to me and to us, the people who came, because we don't have the same literature you have to see where the debt at, where it's being spent at, because what we looked at and what we read that you have out is very misleading. Because on this paper it said negative 2.5, so it's very misleading. And then tonight, thanks, I guess you heard the echo about we want to see how much we're spending at every school. So if we could get that information, and I think we should have I guess y'all should have a workshop. We should really have a workshop and take this into consideration.
Again, the board needs to sit down and look at why this is happening.
But okay, and then the second thing, how y'all haven't took this in consideration before you say you're going to 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade before you didn't see all this negativity before you want to go up on schools? That's the thing. You can't make those rational decisions and say we're going to do this and you haven't took the necessary step to see where your funds
Again, in doing this, we're trying to attract people back to the district, which would raise our fund balance, and that would raise money.
How would it raise money if you're going another year up from the same school and bring them back?
It would attract students back who have left the district due to not wanting to go to certain schools.
But that's backward. That's backward math, though, Mr. Barr. I'm chairman.
But again,
I understand what you're trying to say.
Again, what my fear with this whole issue is when you start trying to force people into a school, you cannot make students go to a school. Mm-hmm. And my fear is we're going to lose a lot more, which is going to only compound the issue.
We had the private school, now they're charter school. We got James Madison, How many schools we got around here? So it's a choice, and they spoke about that last week. But all we're looking for is the best for our kids. We're looking what's best for the kids. If the money we have that could be best for our kids could pay the best teachers, the administration, to come and give us the best for our kids. Look at she was just saying the ESC, they short at Central School. Everybody else got enough, but they're short and they need detailed time, so they don't have enough of staff. My wife, she go work in there. She got about 10 tasks right now. She have to do every day. Huh? She have to do 10 tasks every day. She got to stay to school. She don't get paid for that.
Well,
she don't get paid for none of that, but she do it because she love the kids.
Right. A lot of people in education do a lot of things.
I ain't talking about a lot of people. I'm talking about right now. I don't care about lots of people because you guys
people
say
right now in this district do a lot that they're not paid for.
Okay, so how we change this? But you keep throwing it out that we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. We don't want to lose this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to go on to the next person.
Yeah, because you
thought
don't
we were
have no
allowed 3
respect. That's why
minutes
you
for
don't like to
each
go to the
person.
next person.
I think we need to go on to the next person.
Wait a second.
3 minutes to be respectful to the other people.
We've done it. I mean, again, we're going to be
Who
respectful.
said something?
We're going to say something. We're going to follow the rules. Again, I think the best thing that we can do is to have a meeting with Ms. Rayneck, the board, have a workshop, and we can dig down into where these deficits are coming from and what we may could do to alleviate it based on the fact that our only public high school is in the state it's in. I mean, it's simple to say we're going to close the 3 outlying schools, but what about the high school? You're looking at over $600,000 short.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we need to systematically look at it, maybe have someone, maybe from FADS or someone who could come in and maybe look at it to give us ideas of where this issue is coming, because that doesn't make sense for the high school who has the enrollment to be that short. Again, we need to know why it's short.
Yes, that's true.
We need to know why it's short, and based upon we just received this tonight, we can't make this decision sitting here at the dais.
And that's all I'm saying. Let's be fair with you.
Mr. Davis, we will look at all of it, not just the high school, we'll look at all of it.
Thank you, because it's very important. And you got people around, you got this and all this going, and when you ain't did your own research, and then for her to bring that tonight because I mentioned that, that's kind of, you're getting paid all this money to do a job. It's like you slacking on your own job. Because you're looking at, and it's sad. It's sad because of the simple fact that this came up tonight. And you went to all these schools trying to do this and make all these moves, configuration this and that. And we never really look at the inside of the scope. We're just looking on the top of the surface. You got to go inside the surface.
Where the issue is, and I go back to my concern, is we cannot make teachers nor students go into Central. We cannot make them.
Because y'all make it bad. I'm sorry. Y'all portray it to be y'all because you guys, some of you guys, I'm gonna say that, portray Central to be so bad.
No one's portraying anything, but we cannot make anyone do something like that when there's a choice. What do other board members feel about this?
I feel as though we should be respectful to all the people that come up there. And we have 3 minutes, and that's what this proposal took, and everyone else should give 3 minutes. That's how I feel.
Mr. Davis, we know there's an issue.
If he wants to talk to us individually, that's fine, after the meeting, but not more than 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair, how can I get on the agenda next meeting? What I need to do to get on the agenda so I can get a copy of that? You
can get a copy of this, but you can speak during public input. I mean, again, I don't know agenda. I don't know why you would be on the agenda.
For the budget.
No, we're not going to go for it.
Again, we're going to have a workshop where we're going to go over the budget.
Okay.
We're going to have a workshop with Ms. Rose. People in the communities will not start getting on the agenda, or we will, again, we have...
I pay taxes here.
I understand that.
I pay taxes, so
I understand that.
I have kids investing in this. It's something important to me. For you say, you keep shaking your head. First of all, just have a little respect. That's it. You may not like me, but you just have to respect me, and I respect you
I
as your job.
respect you, and you still are entitled to 3 minutes.
That's why I'm talking to the chair. He overwrite you, okay? So listen to this. I'm gonna sit down. I thank you so much. Yes, sir.
All comments to me.
Okay, but this is the thing. This is the only thing about it. Okay, when you make all these assumptions about Central don't have this and that, it's something in the pudding. We keep saying that we don't want to bring all these people together. What you mean we can't bring these together? We can't make that decision by not trying. If you die today, at least you know I tried to do everything by every kid in this district. Not for Pioneer, not for Lee, it's for every kid.
Again, we are trying to do for all. I don't know why you're saying that, but again, we are trying to do it for all.
But you just saying you can't bring everybody together.
No, I'm not saying that. I said I cannot force teachers to go into a place or students.
How you forcing them if you don't put it in the state that we're going to close the schools out? We're going to close outlying schools out. Everybody go Central because that's what we're paying for.
If you're closing the schools that we've had open, then you're saying you're having to go there. When again, you're going to have no school of choice for the K through 8 in the district, no public school of choice.
But that's why Central's built. Central. It's the Central. And all I'm looking at is money-wise. And I'm going to sit down. Thank you so much for letting me speak, Mr. Allen. But the thing of it is, I'm looking at the money thing. The money. And again, all this negative money.
And again, we are too. We're looking at the money also, or we wouldn't have requested this to be on here.
Yeah, that's all I'm looking for the future of our school.
We're looking at the money also, or we would not have requested for this information to be on for us to look at. The money is imperative to us because we're the ones responsible for the money. The board is responsible. So we're looking at that also, and that's why I think it's important for us to have a workshop with Ms. Rose where we can see where the issues are, where we can look at it and see where we go from there.
Okay, this is the last thing, because she said something very important. You said it's short staff. $200,000 they over it, and they got enough staff in Lee, right? And Pioneer, they got enough staff in Lee.
Pioneer's short staff.
They short staff too?
Yes.
And Central's short staff as well, but they're not over, right? And they bear the burden of no one want to go there, but these people who's dedicated to it, why can't they get a raise then? If it's gonna be like that, if it's gonna be someone that needs to get paid for what they're doing, why can't they get a bonus? You say all this CARES money, give them some more of the CARES money that you feeling like people don't want to go to this school because this is what you said. You say they don't want to go to Central. We can't make people go there. But since the people who's there dedicated there and they're giving all their time, all their talent to these kids, why not do something extra for them?
Mr. Attorney or Ms. Rainick, could you speak to that, please?
I was just going to say, every time you look at a budget, you have to remember that that's a snapshot in time. It's what has happened at a certain point in time. And what we are looking at and trying to project. So what happened in 2021, based on the annual financial report, is what was in front of you. Now, why those schools were overspent, we would have to take the budget apart, piece by piece, and drill down. Some of that would have been caused by activities, some of that would have been caused by transportation, some of that would have been caused by having to bring in subs. So there's piece by piece you have to drill down into to see where those things are. I don't believe that there's a school that has a full staff in it, am I correct? Is there a fully staffed school? Greenville. Lee is fully staffed. Other than that, we have shortages in a lot of the schools. And you're going to see, you may see this picture this year, but you may see a different picture coming into the end of the school year. So you can't make a holistic judgment based on a piece of data that came out from last year's budget. So just be careful when you're looking at dollars, that you're looking at the whole thing, not just a piece of it.
No. My business management, so I do a business plan for my business, so I know what you're talking about. All right, so but I can get a copy of that. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 4.12, the MCH. Miss Bishop will post that on board docs, Mr. Davis. She will post it on board docs. 4.2, the MCHS alternative school configuration, and what we're looking at here is we had the lady from DOE to come out to tour the campus, and we're wanting to have or she had given us permission to have the old Excel under the MCHS campus, whereas before it was not.
We want the building to be part of the high school. We're not doing away with Excel number. That number is going and it's retiring for a few days, but if we ever need to retrieve it, we will be. But the property will be part of the high school.
Okay.
So it'd be considered the high school?
It's part of the
Right, I
high
got
school.
you.
It's the
Right.
high
It's an
school
extension.
annex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that.
And we need that for our fish report because right now it's listed as a separate building. And it's, and when you do your classrooms and all that, you've got to label that. And
I got
so
it.
Okay, does everyone understand what she explained, that the Excel is considered, or part of that, it's an annex of the high school? Is there a motion to approve the MCHS alternative school configuration fish report?
I moved.
It's been properly moved by Mr. Carroll. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bell. Any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favor, show of hand, please. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. 4.13, sixth grade configuration. I do think that again, if we do move the students back out to the school, that would be additional students for the school. But we need to, I think, see where we may need to look at of making where we can have the finances to where it levels out. Again, you would think that statistically looking at it, if a school has a higher enrollment, that it would have less of a shortage. So I'm curious to see what's...
Part of that at the high school, I think, is because you have different classes that may not have the same class size.
Uh-huh.
When we figure staffing plans, we figure
Based on-
25 students.
right.
But you might have class sections that have 12 to 15 students.
Right.
Which drives the cost
Right.
up.
But like at Lee having a higher enrollment, you would think that they would not be as short as Greenville with a lower enrollment based upon, but again, that would be interesting to look at
You have to drill down. and
to see
what those
exactly where,
If we move the students back to, sixth graders back to the outlying schools, will we have to get a teacher to teach that class in the outlying schools? Or is that gonna be-
It's based on a staffing formula, which basically the elementary school is a 1:18 ratio. So, well, yeah, the sixth grade is 1:22, but, I mean, if you don't have the kids to justify taking one out, then no, you won't get one.
when could, Ms. Rainick, when could we have a workshop on this? We could. Would you have the information by next week? Okay. Let's see what day. Is there a day that's not good for the board? Anyone on the board?
Wednesday won't be a good day for me.
So the 2nd is out. Is there any other day that's not a good day? Ms. Rainick, you pick the day, what's best for you?
Wednesday. Tuesday or Wednesday?
So Tuesday, she
Tuesday.
said Wednesday was not good for her, so
Tuesday?
Tuesday will be, is that the pleasure of the board?
Is that March the 1st?
March the 1st?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Ms. Williamson, is that an okay day? Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
I'm good with that.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
So March the 1st, at 5, you want to do 5 o'clock? And you'll have time by then to come to why it's, Okay. And I just, we still can look at it at that point. I also would like to see how many students we have that would be going up to the, at each school to see if it's within the 22, the 1 to 22.
Well, we've got this right
We
here.
have 22 fifth graders.
Who now?
Greenville only has 17 fifth graders.
This was,
Also remember that FTE, the kids that are in pre-K, they don't generate money in FTE.
Right,
That comes from the pre-K allocation.
right.
So where it says children
oh,
that are enrolled is not the same as FTE.
Right.
One FTE is one child
I don't know if it had to be a
6 hours a
parent.
day for 180 days. Their attendance shows something different.
let's see, this year, that's enough.
So, but your ESC pre-K would be counted, just not your pre-K VPK. Okay.
And are we just estimating how many sixth graders will stay back? Because it's still parents' choice if they still want to send their child to the central school?
Sorry, I can't.
I'm sorry. Are we still estimating how many students are going to be staying at the outlying schools? Because it's still parent choice whether they want to send them to central or not?
It is parent choice, whatever school they choose. We're estimating, we have estimated how many children are going to be there, but that's purely an estimate.
It's all an
based on
estimate.
historical.
It's all a
It's all.
guesstimate.
It's a guesstimate.
Guesstimate.
But we have submitted an FTE forecast to DOE.
Okay.
I can share that with you as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, where did this come from, the survey that I'm looking?
From the parents who
So in other
delegated,
words,
I think.
for instance, Pinetta, 23 parents said they're staying at Pinetta.
Each night when we did those community forums, I did
They filled it out.
a survey, and that's the results of the survey of the people that attended those
Right.
community forums.
And it could have been any parent that even don't have a child there. It could be anybody. Is that correct?
Whatever
could be, yeah.
adult was at the meeting, they were given a survey.
Right.
And I felt that was better rather than doing it on, online, because if I had done it online, they would have been able to
That's right,
vote
it could have been.
multiple times.
So, after we have our workshop, then we'll come back to the sixth grade configuration. At this time, we're going to hold off at this time. I feel that we should, and the other board members, Ms. Williamson, how do you feel?
That's fine. So you're just going to table it to the meeting after
Right.
the workshop?
Miss,
Just
yes.
put it on the agenda the next time.
Okay, Mr. Carroll,
Yeah, we don't need to do it tonight.
Okay, I got a question.
Ms. Bell.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Okay, next time will be on March 28th, because we've got spring break, our normal time, and then we're gonna have a meeting the week after spring break. We're gonna break rules.
Don't we have a meeting March 7th?
March the
March
7th.
7th, I'm sorry, March
Yeah, March
7th.
7th.
So we have a meeting.
That's the first one,
Okay,
seven.
well, March 7th will be our next meeting.
Okay, that'll be okay. That'll be okay. So wait to that point. Do you
And-
agree, Mr. Reeves?
Yes, sir.
And I agree that we need to gather as much information as possible so we can make the perfect decision for all the students in Madison County.
Okay, item 4.15, the memorandum of understanding with the Department of Corrections, Ms. Joseph.
Okay, this is an agreement that is signed between the district and the Department of Corrections, meaning the prisons, every 5 years in case a disaster happens out there and they need to use our transportation, our buses. And so basically, it does not preclude us using them for what we have to use in the event that we are able to let them use it. That's all this is saying. And it's every 5 years.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Department of Corrections?
I move to approve it.
It's been properly moved by Mr. Carroll. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bell. Did you second it, Ms. Bell?
I did.
Or
But
Ms.
we both did it at the same time.
Okay,
that's
I'm
okay.
hearing
fine.
like
It's
echoes.
fine.
And okay, it's been properly moved by Mr. Carroll, seconded by Ms. Bell. All those, any discussion? All those in favor, show a hand for the approval with the memorandum of understanding with the Department of Corrections. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for approval. Okay, at this time, that concludes items of individual consideration. Other items of interest, superintendent items, Ms. Joseph?
Okay, superintendent items, Mr. Chair and other board members, I'd like to report that this past Thursday, we hosted the School-Related Employee of the Year, and the person chosen to represent Madison County for the School-Related Employee of the Year was Mr. Leroy James. And even though he has worked with us and at almost every school within our district, he is now working with Madison Creative Arts Academy. Another thing I would like to report, I'd like to say congratulations to the Madison County Science Fair winners. And they had regionals last week, and I cannot tell you exactly who won what, but when I find a number of names, I'll have it posted on our website. And this week is Bus Appreciation Week, and our new bus foreperson is still having different activities for the bus drivers. Okay, today they had donuts down at the shop for the bus drivers, and anybody else want to come by, donuts and juice. And some of the schools are giving their bus drivers some bits of appreciation. They're going to have an appreciation dinner and other things. But we'd like to thank him for hosting a bus appreciation week for the drivers and other workers.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reeves?
No, sir, no additional questions of me.
No, sir. Ms. Williamson?
Yes, I just want to thank Miss Becky and Mr. Isaac and Miss Jennifer Williams for all the extra they did to set up all our workshop meetings and get everything in place and all. Thank you, guys. But I want to thank the parents and everybody else that came out with their input. Some have one view, some another, but we still appreciate everybody's input, and it gives you insight and things to think about and to look at. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms.
Yes, I had
Gibson?
the pleasure of attending the school-related personnel luncheon, and Mr. Leroy James, I can speak on his behalf. He was our janitor at the primary school many years ago, and we loved him. The children did. A wonderful role model. As a matter of fact, I hate to see him leave. I think he's actually going to retire now.
He said he's retiring again
Yeah,
this year.
he's going to retire. But I told him, because he said, you said don't ever retire. Well, I hate to see people like that retire because they're so good. I had a couple inquiries from the community about cursive writing. I brought this up at the board, when I first got elected. And Mrs. Hill said that it is still one of the standards, which I was glad to see, and it is incorporated into the Wonders curriculum, which I was happy to see that also. So in other words, we're going to be able to write our name in cursive when we get to high school. That's good. Amanda Phillips, I'd like to recognize her. She sent 19 projects, science projects, to the science fair at the Swanee Valley Science Fair. I think it was in Lake City. 12 of those will go on to the Florida State Science Fair. So thank you, Mrs. Phillips. And then again, I appreciate Travis Jones, Director of Transportation, for appreciating his drivers also. And again, thank you to our employees for what they do each and every day. You are appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Carroll?
I'd just like to congratulate the girls on making it to the state. Hope and wish them luck. The boys, wish them luck tonight over in Bradford. But thank you all for coming. Thank all the teachers for what they do. Darnell, thank you for speaking. And believe me, Darnell, your words is not going unheard. I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't know how tough this seat was till I got in it. That joke is tough now. But anyways,
You gotta be tough.
we're gonna do the best we can and for our kids, and that's what and our staff people. But thank y'all for coming. Ms. Raynack, thank you. I never could understand them things until you got here, but I appreciate it. And thank all y'all for what helping last week, and Ms. Hill, and we thank y'all for everything y'all doing. I know you got a tough job, but Mr. Killer, where we at? We need to talk about insurance or something. Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay, Ms. Bell.
I would like to say congratulations to the basketball team for how far they've gotten so far. I would like to say congratulations to Mr. Leroy. I want to say congratulations also to the science fair winners. I would like to say I appreciate our bus drivers, and if you see one, thank them for all that they do. And I also appreciate our staff, everybody. I'm not going to call names because I appreciate all of y'all. I love y'all. I want to also send my condolences out to Miss Dorothy Love's family. She worked for the district. She passed away a couple of days ago. And we just lost so many employees. I just feel sad. And it hurts because me and Miss Love worked together for quite a few years. Mr. Darnell, I appreciate you talking and giving some more insight and things that we need to look at. I appreciate everybody that spoke because we need as much information as we can to make the proper decision for our students. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I would like to thank all of our employees. I would like to thank the bus drivers and their work. They've been understaffed and having to do what they're doing daily. We appreciate it. I congratulate Mr. James in his accomplishments. That's great. All the science fair winners at the high school. I too would like to thank Mr. Goyette, Ms. Bishop, Ms. Williamson, and Ms. Howard for all the stops last week and having to break down and set up all this equipment. That's a big undertaking. I would like to congratulate the boys and girls high school basketball teams and their continued quest toward the state. I last night had the opportunity to present the ribbons for the swine show at the livestock show, and that is one of the heights of being the chairman, is getting to go down there and do that. It's a lot of fun. A lot of swines were there and had a grand champion in reserve, and it was a great night. But again, what that shows is a lot of dedication and hard work by parents and students who do that and who work with the swines, and just how into the moment they are when they're out there guiding the swine in the arena in front of the judge, and just a great learning experience that they have. And not all students have those types of experiences, and so I'm just happy that we have students within our district and in surrounding districts who had that experience. There were students from Madison participating, Hamilton, Live Oak, Mayo, and Perry. So there was a lot of participants, and it was a great night. So I do wish all them well, and again, thank everyone for coming tonight and you expressing your concerns. Again, all the board members sitting here want the district to do the best that we can do financially. That is all of our goals. And again, we've just got to see what we can do to make it where we're the most efficient and hopefully retain students and attract students back. We're walking a fine line with not losing additional students. And again, if we were to do that, that's just additional money you're going to encumber. So again, it's a fine line we're walking here, but again, I do appreciate everything, what everybody's done, and wish everyone well and have a safe and happy week until the next time we have our workshop on the 1st at 5 o'clock. Is there a motion to?
I have one more thing to say. I wanted to thank two people that haven't been thanked, and for what they do. Our law enforcement, Officer Haskell and Officer Knight. Thank you for what you do each and every day. You are much appreciated. And we're happy to have you at the board meetings too.
Officer Haskell and possibly Knight were at all the meetings. You were at all the meetings, and possibly Officer Knight, so they got...
I was at all of them, but I tried to get each one of my resource officers within their school. Some of the sports activities, we couldn't do that with all of them.
We appreciate you being there, and again, we appreciate all that you do and all what you do for the district, and again, that's much appreciative.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Ms. Gibson, seconded by Ms. Bell.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor, please show a hand. 5-0, Ms. Bishop, for adjournment. You don't have a vote.